TWIRx. This week in pharmacy, March 13th, 2026. Listen to me. It's March. It's Friday, March 13th, 2026. TWIRx. We have a lot to talk about. All right, Keith Kallmes is coming back from Nested Knowledge. I don't know if you've listened to any of our other TWIRx where we had Keith chiming in on the evolution of artificial intelligence and impact on the pharmacy industry and how it's accelerating. It's getting crazy. It's fast, paced extremely fast. Probably the fastest sector of innovation right now is tied into something with artificial intelligence. And we've had some support from TJM Labs and their knowledge and their guidance to the profession, the specific sectors of pharmacy and artificial intelligence has become extremely interesting. You have to pay attention to what Keith's doing. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking with Outcomes Luann Myers and the technology sector of pharmacy and supporting what needs to be done and plugging pharmacists into just about everything and more, especially with the rise of research and documentation and the FDA looking for pharmacists. This is big, so it's going to be a good conversation for infrastructure and technology to support that. Dr. Fran Gregory from Cardinal Health will be on. You aren't going to want to miss the updates to cell and gene therapy and also some touches on biosimilars and what this means for our profession and pharmacists becoming specialists. It's exciting to think of that. It's exciting to think that there are pharmacists out there right now who are going to become specialists in very specific biosimilar medication management. Hey, but first up, let's go TWIRx News.
Reporting from St. George News for March 13th, 2026, Utah has launched a first-in-the-nation pilot program allowing artificial intelligence to renew certain prescriptions, sparking debate across the healthcare community. The program, developed with health tech startup Doctronic, allows AI to approve refills for about 190 common medications used to treat chronic conditions such as hypertension, diabetes, and thyroid disease. The AI system verifies patient identity, reviews medication history, and screens for drug interactions before sending approved renewals to a pharmacy, with uncertain cases escalated to a human clinician. Supporters say the technology could reduce physician workload, improve medication adherence, and speed up access to routine refills, especially in areas facing provider shortages. However, critics, including physician groups, warn that removing clinicians from prescribing decisions could create patient safety risks and accountability challenges, emphasizing that AI should assist rather than replace medical professionals. The results of Utah's pilot could influence how AI is integrated into prescribing and medication management nationwide.
I mean, it's a tool, just like anything else. The calculator doesn't have the final say in what the decisions are around dosing. It's up to you. You're the pharmacist. You are in control. No one's taking your jobs. This needs to be redefined as what it is: an information resource, a calculator, a word processor that is extremely organized and has the ability to pull in massive amounts of data and access to that data. And what AI is going to do for the pharmacist is just incredible, but it's not in a position to take over any of the actions that are tied to your license as a pharmacist. Like, come on, that's not happening. But reach out to your state representative and just get them ahead of this, because you don't want to be hijacked in your state Hey, next up.
An opinion piece in Penn Live Patriot News warns that pharmacy deserts are rapidly expanding across Pennsylvania, leaving many communities without convenient access to medications and pharmacist care. The article notes that more than 1,000 community pharmacies have closed statewide since 2020, forcing patients, especially seniors, rural residents, and those without reliable transportation, to travel farther for prescriptions and basic healthcare services. The commentary calls on Harrisburg lawmakers to act quickly, arguing that policy changes, particularly reforms addressing pharmacy reimbursement and pharmacy benefit manager practices, are needed to stabilize community pharmacies and protect patient access. Without stronger legislative action, the author warns that additional closures could deepen pharmacy deserts across both urban and rural areas of the state.
Shout out to Victoria Elliott, the executive director. The chief executive director, CEO of the Pennsylvania Pharmacists Association, for writing this piece. Take a look at this. We'll make sure that this is in the show notes for your access. But this is a great story, and I want you to share this with your fellow state pharmacy association, and get all the heads together to repeat what Vicky is mentioning and writing in about. Hey, next up.
Posted today from Pharmacy Times. The article reads, Prevalence of Female Authorship in Pharmacy Publishing examines the representation of women as authors in pharmacy-related academic publications and how it compares with the broader pharmacy workforce. The article highlights that although women make up a large proportion of the pharmacy workforce, their representation in scholarly publishing, particularly in senior or leadership authorship roles, has historically lagged behind. Research examining pharmacy journals shows that women increasingly appear as first authors, reflecting growing participation in research and academia. However, women remain less represented as senior authors, a position typically associated with research leadership and mentorship. This gap suggests that while progress has been made in female participation in pharmacy publishing, disparities still exist in leadership and senior academic roles. The findings emphasize the need for continued mentorship, support, and opportunities to help women advance in research and publishing within the pharmacy profession.
Who's going to do the research to find out, since women have eclipsed men within the profession of pharmacy, what attributes of the profession of pharmacy care, of patient care, what attributes have from documenting, from data, how can we show a difference in what the industry was like? Because from just my opinion, observing the pharmacy profession now for more than 20 years and documenting it through podcasting for 17, there is an opportunity to become more clinical from slowing down and being a little bit more introspective to the sector of pharmacy that you're commanding and you're overseeing, whether that's rare disease or hypertension or disease or pediatrics or whatever it is. But women have an opportunity to take advantage of some of that firsthand experience in women's health issues, pediatrics as mothers. And I'm not trying to say that women need more health care, but in some ways they do, especially with the motherhood thing. But I think this is a huge opportunity for us to really start pushing women pharmacists that, like, here's the truth of the matter. I think let me shout out to Dr. Jenna Quinn, right? So she builds the Perfecting Peds. They are now nationally known. They're making the news. They got Mark Cuban coming on their podcast which we'll be broadcasting through and pushing that through the network so that you guys can hear it. But she doesn't have time necessarily to write a paper on something. Someday I'm sure she will. She builds her team out. But I mean, there's a lot of pressures on where that information's coming from. And if it's inside academia, we just need to get more grants tied back to women's research. And I think there's specific, once again, advantages that women would have to drill down into things that are not getting enough attention. That's why I'm so excited about Dr. Daniel Plummer on the network, focusing on pregnancy, becoming pregnant, dealing with pregnancy issues, post pregnancy issues. Why I'm so excited that Dr. Nadia Archambault is coming back, our Sex Farm D, specific issues that women in sexual health experience that men do not experience. But guess what? Nadia is going to be jumping over into men's health anyway. I'm just saying that we need to do whatever we can to support women authors of information that can be pushed up through the exhausting process that is journaling. And I would love to sponsor projects to get them funding so that they can get published once again on specific issues that I think they have an advantage over a man in pharmacy. Not necessarily in the totality, but definitely in the specifics. But I want to just shout you out. If you are doing research, if you want your research promoted, if you want to build something to get more attention around it, hook me up. I would love to be a part of it. Next up on news.
A letter to the editor in the Tennessean posted today argues that CVS is using threats of pharmacy closures to protect its profits as Tennessee lawmakers consider legislation targeting pharmacy benefit managers. The proposed bill, SB 2040, would prohibit PBMs from owning or operating pharmacies, a structure used by vertically integrated companies like CVS Health, which owns both CVS pharmacies and the PBM CVS Caremark. The writer claims CVS's warnings that it could close 134 Tennessee pharmacies if the bill passes are misleading, arguing the legislation would only require companies to divest their PBM or pharmacy ownership, not shut down stores. Supporters of the bill say the measure would reduce conflicts of interest and create a fairer prescription drug market, while CVS contends the policy could disrupt patient access to pharmacy care and jobs across the state.
So I'm going to admit I am not a poker player. I've tried it a couple times. I don't think I'm naturally good at it, but I think it's fun. But when you think of the cards and you think the strategies that come with poker or whatever you're playing, this is a card game that CVS Health and their parent company is now playing, and we're calling them on their bullshit and saying that this is going to be a threat to close stores and the lies to protect profits. And what's truth is that they are doing nothing but trying to protect profits. This is not about being a healthcare provider specifically, and it's the control. All you have to do is give up those stores and divest, and your insurance agency your PBM can grow, and your pharmacies, they can grow too. You have every right to grow those businesses, but you have absolutely zero right to take tax dollars or funding, or private funding for that matter, and build an advantage to your organizations in picking up more of that revenue on purpose by design that you can't give other opportunities for other sectors of pharmacy to pick up, whether that's our regional chains, our grocery store organizations, our independent pharmacies, to be able to play into the opportunity to serve their communities. So, F you to CVS Health for not backing down, because PBM reform's coming no matter what. Now there's too much has been put out there to the public. The public's finally getting smart to it. And CVS knows it. They know the end is coming to the way things are right now, and they're going to try to squeeze all of the revenue out, rather than, what if they took a step back and a PR opportunity to say, we want to bring every pharmacy association together. We want a huge powwow, and we want to design a brand new payment system that reimburses pharmacists for what they know and treatment that they drive, and knowledge of therapeutic excellence and choosing the right medication, or maybe a biosimilar or something else that's going on. Just really giving pharmacists the ability to practice their specific their specifics and get paid to do it, just like physicians and specialists that are physicians. And there's no difference, especially with the Board of Pharmacy expansions. So shame on you again, CVS, for trying to paint it a very insincere way to the public that you aren't telling the truth. You're not saying, hey, we don't want to give up revenue. As an insurance company, we own pharmacies, and there's manipulation within that. I don't even know why Stark Law isn't already slamming down on this whole thing 20 years ago. But it is what it is. I'm excited about what you're about to hear from Keith Kallmes, and an update on resourcing information through the use of a very interesting a tool for resourcing, especially if you're in research. But I'm excited about this. I'm excited about you listening in. Nested Knowledge, by the way, is the company I want you to look up. Nested-Knowledge, and take it away. Hey, welcome back to This Week in Pharmacy. Guess who's back? Keith is back. Kallmes. Keith is back. He is back. He is back. I'll stop now. I always wanted to, down deep inside, to be a rapper, and it's never gonna work. It's never gonna work, Keith. What did you want to be when you were little and you wanted to grow up?
A physician.
Ah, you were close. You're kind of like a artificial intelligence physician.
Yeah, but this way I don't have to be in a hospital.
Or get blood on you, or somebody throwing up on you or something. Welcome back to TWIRx. This is Keith Kallmes. If the listeners don't know, Keith and his brother and his team have built an amazing tool in the space of our pharmacy industry. I met you, Keith, at Assembia 2024, and you're returning for Access to Pharmacy 2026. I can't wait to see you there, but what do you like about going to Assembia?
I mean, first of all, it's a great time to be in Vegas. It's not too hot, not too cold, and the outdoors around there are spectacular. The food's great. Assembia specifically, it's a really interesting cross-section of my conventional user base in the pharmaceutical industry with the people who are ultimately leveraging the data that health economists at pharma companies are producing, right? Payers, PBMs, formulary, right? People deciding what medicines patients should get. So in my day-to-day, I'm constantly just on the production line, if you will, but it's really nice to see where that data is ending up, who's making those decisions, and how they're making those decisions. So getting the full picture of health economics, getting the full picture of how decisions are made is just a really cool experience.
All right, so when we go to Assembia Pharmacy Podcast Network, we're going to be there as press. We're going to be concentrating on 3 different categories of topics, kind of the innovation of the industry. We're going to be concentrating on artificial intelligence impact on specialty specifically, and then women's health and how it's different than other components of healthcare per se. We're going to have some representation for each of those. You're going to be part of the AI panel that we're going to discuss. You and I were talking about formulary management, and boy, I tell you what, when I'm thinking of specialty, that really aligns. Can you talk to our listeners about what you guys are doing with formulary management?
Yeah, great question. The first and simplest would be what I would call horizon scanning. Horizon scanning, we have an API with clinicaltrials.gov, which would allow users to essentially automate with a combination of good systems and AI, knowledge synthesis for what drugs are coming to market. And that could be a novel drug that has some really exciting implications for, patients struggling with a rare disease, to there's a patent cliff for a big drug. There's a lot of patent cliffs coming up in 26, 27, 28, where there's going to be biosimilars that are going to enter the competitive space. And, you just think with some of these larger health plans and PBMs, they could probably save tens of millions of dollars a day if they can certify clinical equivalence with a biosimilar and then get the lives they cover to switch over to that biosimilar versus the brand name. So really staying on top of that. Obviously, it's a lot of work conventionally, but with good systems, with AI, you can actually automate that. So you're going to know exactly what biosimilars would be available when. You'd have a really good understanding of preliminary readouts. You'd be notified as new pieces of evidence are entering the literature or new trials are going into clinicaltrials.gov. So that's, I think, probably the most simplest and most exciting that I can encapsulate. I did a build at Assembia the year I met you, where someone asked me to do, well, I'm in charge of horizon scanning. It always takes me so much time. And I built her like in 15 minutes what she was her job. So that was really fun. Another interesting aspect is formulary decisions. So how do you decide what drug should be on formulary? There's a lot of evidence that has to go into that. Obviously, first and foremost has to be the clinical evidence. What is most beneficial for patients? That's why everyone's there, right? Ultimately it comes down to like making life longer or more palatable or more livable for patients. So what drugs work? That's the first question you have to ask. You also have to ask how many patients in your covered lives might have that. That's an epidemiological question. And the incidence and prevalence of different diseases is quite variable in the US, depending on all the demographic and regional factors that are collected in clinical trials. So, if you're covering, if it's a commercial group versus a Medicare group, those are going to have very different incidences and prevalences, and bringing a new drug onto formulary is going to have a very different impact. So having an understanding of the clinical, having an understanding of the epidemiology, both of which can be derived from literature, and that process can be helped with AI. The last piece is economic, right? So you need to know, okay, we have this great new drug. We're going to make it available to our members. Ultimately, PBMs, health insurers are businesses, and they, if they lose money, then they go out of business. So you need to model out how much the adoption of that drug is going to cost, and weigh that against the clinical benefit. So that's the economic component. So number one, most important, clinical, epidemiological, and economic. All that really goes into the decision of what drug goes on formulary, what are the prior auth conditions for what patients can receive that drug. It's all driven from evidence, and there's an increasing volume of evidence, but fortunately that can be synthesized faster than ever. Again, thanks to good systems and AI.
And it's the enhancer on top of that expertise that's in place. The person that you helped when you build out the AI model and the AI assistance tool, like you said, within 15 minutes, they're the expert. They take that. It's Thor's hammer. It's Thor's the god of thunder. He is what he is with or without his hammer. But with his hammer, he's like 10 times more powerful. And that's the way I'm looking at AI anymore. There's so many, there's continued debate about where it's going. Will it take jobs? And I'm like, listen, if you're worried about it taking your job, you're not working hard enough. You're not working strategically enough. You're not working as an expert in something. AI for me as a publicist, as a podcaster, as a content developer has helped me to refine the expertise that our guests are bringing and what they're saying, and then the show notes and everything to make sure that what we're putting out as a publication is trusted information, and then it's checked, it's double checked to say, hey, is what was said correct? And kind of leads us to why we're partnered with Nested Knowledge and what we call evidence-based podcasting, is so that when someone's listening to a podcast on a jog or driving in their car, they don't have to wonder, who are these people talking and what are they saying? Is everything that's being said right now, can I trust it? or do I have to go read a journal article, or do I have to dive in? And by the way, that information is there. Nested Knowledge has an engine that will pull all of the referenceable data. However, the listener can rest assured that when you're listening to a show that is truly evidence-based podcasting that has the certification, it's being driven by the capability to identify patterns, maybe errors, and that's the way that AI is driving a formulary situation. It's identifying patterns and medication errors, adverse drug reactions, providing valuable insights to potential maybe a systematic error or systematic issue. And as long as your tools are set and you have the expertise watching and managing it, therein lies the argument back that's saying, no, it's not a threat to your jobs and it's not a threat to accuracy as long as your expert is driving the bus.
Amen. I think we are the Mjolnir of evidence synthesis. I couldn't agree more. We've actually seen two competing approaches in AI for evidence synthesis, which is where you have effectively a chatbot that you put questions into, and it returns a literature review. I put that in air quotes because I take issue with the use of that term there, versus human in the loop, which is what we are. I think we are the leading human in the loop solution. There's a lot of literature-based chatbots. And it's not that those are useless. It's that for someone who would be listening to your podcast, Todd, an expert in the field, maintaining that human loop is critical because AI hallucinates. It's wrong. It doesn't actually understand things. It's a word calculator. It's incredibly useful, but it's a tool. It's a tool. Just like, SQL databases are a tool. And I would even say, to your point, like AI's strengths are actually humans' weaknesses, and humans' weaknesses are AI's strengths. So we talk about things like sensitivity and recall when we're looking at accuracy in a evidence synthesis activity. So if you're a radiologist, sensitivity, specificity, right? And it turns out that humans are really good at discernment, right? Or you could call them very discriminating. They are very good at knowing when records shouldn't go in, what is irrelevant. AI is vastly overly inclusive. It just thinks everything is relevant because it's a word calculator. On the other hand, humans miss stuff all the time. And AI is very, very unlikely to miss stuff. And so if you think about that, if you map those two onto each other, that's actually complementary. It's good for, that means the AI is good. It's going to help you not miss stuff. You have to quality control because it's going to throw stuff in that's totally irrelevant. But that's a compliment. That's not a competition.
We're going to have an opportunity to bring more attention to the Nested Knowledge team and partnering with community long-term care, but more specifically specialty pharmacy, where I think there's a lot more secret sauce application. Is there any other pitfalls that are creating obstacles of patient care in specialty space that Nested Knowledge is truly helping that specialty pharmacy to rise?
Wow, that is a really good question. I would say it's more upstream. I would say like faster decision making for formulary, faster synthesis of evidence to support those decisions. I don't think we're not really a direct patient care tool. Maybe like awareness, like I said at the beginning, like horizon scanning, like as new drugs come out, PBMs, payers, pharmacies can just be aware of what's new to the market in an automated fashion, rather than having to rely on the manufacturers reaching out, having to rely on conventional old manual human methods for recalling data to know what's out there. So yes, but indirectly.
Well, I want the listeners to take a look at this, and you can get started for free if you go to nested-knowledge.com. That link will be in our show notes. Another link that's going to be in our show notes is scheduling time with Keith and his team, the Nested Knowledge team at Assembia, just to get some time on the schedule, to do a quick 15-minute review of what you're looking to do, the challenges that you're facing, the definitions that you're trying to clarify, and how to institute artificial intelligence without it having to be a build out, but something that's going to work day one, that's already been kind of developed by the Nested Knowledge team, and really delivering that powerful tool as an accentuator, as Thor's hammer of your expertise of a specialty pharmacist out there. I'm excited to see you guys again in Vegas, Keith. We have to maybe just get a drink and hang out or something. We're always working. We never just get time to chill out.
I enjoy work.
Yeah, me too. We do nerd out on the work. Thank you, Keith. Thanks for being on TWIRx.
Thank you very much, Todd. It's always good to chat.
Running a pharmacy means juggling a lot. Patient care, inventory, and now compliance. That's where MatchRx comes in. MatchRx is the online marketplace where independent pharmacies buy and sell their overstock safely, quickly, and affordably. You can also shop from 11 plus trusted secondary wholesalers all in one place. We're here to make pharmacy ownership easier, connecting you to savings, trusted partners, and simple tools that help you stay compliant with confidence. MatchRx, where pharmacy meets trust, compliance, and opportunity. Visit MatchRx.com to learn more. That's MatchRx.com.
Hey, welcome back to TWIRx. Special guest on with me today, Vice President of Enterprise Pharmacy, Luann Myers. Welcome to TWIRx.
Thank you, Todd. Appreciate it. It's no pit, but I'm glad to be here.
Hey, we have to get what we get, and we're the only talk show. We're the only weekly talk show about the pharmacy profession. So I aspire to bring a lot more attention to what pharmacists are doing. You and I were both just talking in the green room, we say, before starting, about how pharmacists are getting a lot more recognition than what I remember when I entered pharmacy 20 some years ago. And the Pit, which is an amazing program that's they're featuring. We just talked about that last week on TWIRx. And technology, wow, it's so changed. I remember when SQL Server was a big deal, and now we're talking about how AI is truly moving the grandest of needles to get things done for our pharmacists, to give them a lot more time with patients. And you've seen this from a long time coming as well. Give our listeners a short overview of your role with outcomes and what you're excited about.
Sure. So yeah, thanks again, Todd. Luann Myers, I'm the VP of Enterprise. So myself and my team, we work with the large national chains as well as the regional chains in the health systems. So very excited to be here, and do agree with you both as we were talking, and you had a great post the other day about really pushing things like this podcast, as well as getting involved with legislation and really advocating for ourselves. So I'm excited about anything where we can put the focus back on the pharmacy and what they're doing in their community. And so that's one of the things I'm super excited about. We've got some recent awards that we put out for our network and some of their clinical work with their patients. So those are some of the things, as well as the new technology that's out in the field, and some of the things that we've got upcoming are really excitements that will continue to support who is outcomes customer, which is the pharmacist.
Yeah, the excitement for me is seeing how things are aligning for our pharmacists in all the spaces, health systems, specialty, our community independent pharmacies. And you and I met several times, but the last time it was Total Store Expo, where our chains are also driving technology and leveraging how to get in front of customers and how to customize therapy and how to just be there. But I was so excited you gave a shout out to the awards, because one of our clients, just like Outcomes, will be coming out with a new 3-part series on the Pharmacy Podcast Network. Cardinal has been one of our clients for a very long time. Matter of fact, they were their first corporate client that joined the network, realizing that podcasting was completely underutilized in the pharmacy space way back in 2018. And they just received the top PSAO award from Outcomes. So talk to our listeners a little bit about this.
Yeah. Well, not only did they receive it this year, this is the 5th year in a row that they've been awarded this. And not just did they win it again this year, they had a 17% increase in completed services. So thinking again about the PSAO, these are independents. They're in small areas. They may be the only really regular healthcare provider that these patients interact with. And, you know, we saw this also with Ingalls also is a repeat year winner, also focusing in small towns. You know, this means that these organizations are making a measured approach to say, this is important to us. We are going to consistently provide for our patients and focus on clinical care and patient outcomes. And so, you know, I just think about, you know, those small towns and those patients. It really means a lot to them. And I just applaud that. And then, you know, speaking for some of the larger chains, Albertsons as well has been our top chain 10 years in a row. And that's really just amazing. So those are ones that I think really call out, but there's also, you know, there's also clinics that were called, there's also LTCs. And I think those are, you know, some new areas, especially for LTC that, you know, also have opportunities there. So I think that was really interesting that we're seeing that progress as well. So they just often don't get the visibility that they deserve, really providing these clinical services to the patients. And I think, you know, we want to make sure we're reinvesting kind of the attention back into the pharmacies.
Yeah, the attention that we're finally putting on pharmacists, pharmacy, and then, of course, internal to the profession, really starting to say, here's what's happening in our regional chains, or here's what's happening in our independent communities or hospital systems. Going back to the challenge that a chain would have in comparison to a standalone independent is the organization of processes and data and checkups and treatment modality that's driven by a system that can give every single one of those locations the access to the tools and access to the processes. That's why the power of what Outcomes has done. You know, I remember Outcomes in a different light. I mean, I don't know, listeners, if you're listening now, outcomes.com, by the way, easy to remember, amazing domain, by the way. I can't believe you guys got that domain, but outcomes.com. But I remember when Outcomes was originally almost like a workflow system, which really was zeroed down on into treatment tracking to make sure that you were doing everything that was needed within that specific space, whether it's diabetes or hypertension or whatever it was. But now it's been fused with the entire pharmacy management system, where it's inventory and it's formulary and it's treatment tracking and it's the patient's needs. And now it's becoming such a customized platform where if you're a hospital system, you're a regional chain, you're a standalone independent, you're a specialty pharmacy. How is it that there's so many pharmacy systems out there? How is it that Outcomes has designed this system over the years to really become kind of an ability to play in all of those sectors? What's your story that you can kind of tell us about Outcomes?
Well, I mean, we certainly have, you know, services and abilities, you know, that are elevated for our own platforms, RX30 for sure. But, obviously for the enterprise space that, my team supports, they're often on their own proprietary system. And, people want to work and be proficient in the space that they're working in. No one wants to do a lot of swivel chairs. So I think we just, are prepared to work, in where they, work most of their time. So we don't want them to, really lose out on, operational friction, if you will. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really where we've, set up to be, where can they be most successful in the environment that they're already at.
All right. So what is exciting you when it comes to the application, not the confusion, big difference between application and confusion, but the application of artificial intelligence in the space, and what space do you see doing the most with artificial intelligence in the pharmacy operations?
Well, I think it's kind of funny. I think you need to be thinking selectively about AI. What's interesting, we've got a really big release that I think a lot of people would think AI might be the engine between, but we're actually not using AI to it. Now, that's not to say that we don't have lots and lots of things that AI is being used for other things, but I think especially when you think about like RX30 and our independent platform, we need to be good stewards of our customers, both their data and their money, quite frankly. And so, one thing we're super excited about is automated data entry. And when you think about that, that's something that we hear a lot of flash about, like we should be using AI on that. But Todd, when you think about automated data entry, most of our prescriptions that come into a pharmacy today, probably 97% of those are e-prescriptions. So we already know who the doctor is, who the patient is, and what the drug is being dispensed. So you can really use a lot of things that you already have today that doesn't need AI, doesn't need to go to an outside source and have a learning model where you might risk additional security risks to take that to an outside source. When really that might be something for, say, the 3% that comes in on a written record. And so that's something that we really look to say, a lot of people are talking about AI for this, but where we've seen our competitors that are touting AI for data entry, we're hearing, that it's about a $40,000 investment, where we're seeing that, just having the PMS use the systems that they have in place today for that function today, at no added cost. So we want to make sure that our goal is to use technology where appropriate to give back the time, and again, using their financial investment that they've already given to us, and be good stewards of their data and their investment today so they can focus more on patient care. Now, that's not to say, AI is certainly applicable where you're thinking about patients calling in and AI for voice, for where they could say, anything really in that conversation. So I think we need to be thinking about that more creatively, and not just thinking about, what sounds flashy that can be really, again, thinking about the patient and the customer's money, and using the technology that we have creatively in a way that is respectful of what the investment is they've already paid for.
And the modules that Outcome have built out and have interconnected with the rest of the system that help to make more revenue are those systems that I want to bring more light to and much more attracted to. And, because you could say, hey, I have a pharmacy management system. It's working. I'm always asking the pharmacy operators and the owners. I'm like, but are those systems helping you to make new revenues, and is it helping you to position your pharmacy in a different light than another pharmacy as a true healthcare hub, where you're doing the vaccine tracking, you're doing telepharmacy, and giving your patients all of this flexibility of saying, listen, I got to meet you one time in the pharmacy. We did kind of like this med review. Now all of a sudden I can actually extend my services. If you can't get out of if you're home, if you're feeling sick, we're going to meet you where you are. Also, reconciliation, making sure that you're capturing the money that's out there that you should be getting that you're, scrambling for to find, and then medical billing. Talk to us about maybe one of those that you're seeing starting to rise to the top where it is bringing new revenue opportunities in.
Well, honestly, Todd, I think, there just really isn't one silver bullet for pharmacies anymore. It is, when you talk about joining, starting this podcast years ago, it used to be so much easier to be profitable. It was like, grabbing a fistful of sand and, you made it. Now we're picking out every grain of sand to be profitable. So I think you really have to be thinking about, how do I work with employers in my area? We're seeing a lot of that. How do I work with clinics? One thing we're seeing certainly a lot is, how do I free up the pharmacist's time to do more clinical work? We need to get them free of, again, like the automated data entry. We don't need techs to be pushing buttons to fill in the doctor when we already have the SureScripts ID. Same thing with virtual verification on the telepharmacy product. That's something, if we can free up 48% of the pharmacist's time to be doing those clinical activities, to check blood pressure, they could get $40 for that activity versus walking to get a basket and looking at it, physically, and stapling. They didn't go to pharmacy school to learn how to staple pages to a bag. That's not really what they went to school for. Let's have them work at the top of their license. Those are things that we're seeing really help the margin, if you will. Kind of speaking on telepharmacy, I would say another thing that I'm really excited about is, we've been working for a long time here to expand the states that have access to telepharmacy.
Mm-hmm.
And, we can't do it alone. We have to really rely on the experts in the areas. And we just were speaking with NABP's presidential project. That's something they do through their Innovation and Research Institute. And we're very excited to work with them. They have agreed, they've accepted our proposal for their project to help really use data to educate the states that do not allow telepharmacy today, to help them really create their own rules so that we can open up those states. I think, you were on the website right there. If you looked at the telepharmacy tab and looked at the states that were not open, I think you'd be surprised. A lot of the Northeast is still not open. And there's just a lot of areas that are still rural that do not have access to telepharmacy. So, I think, trivia question to you, do you know when telepharmacy was first allowed in the United States? Like, guess, do you have a guess of what year that was?
I'm going to guess it was 2018.
2001.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
I never guessed
2001, North Dakota was the first state to allow it. And you can see it's kind of filled in from North Dakota out, but looking at those Northeast states, looking at Pennsylvania, there's a lot of rural areas there that could really benefit from, keeping their community pharmacy up. And every day I hear stories from people saying, I'm going to have to close my pharmacy if I cannot get a telepharmacy up. We heard a story of a family business who, he is the second generation. His kids do not want to be a pharmacist. And he said, if I can't get someone in here to take over this, and it's a small town, it's going to have to be a telepharmacy, I will move, because I do not want to be the face in the community who closed the only pharmacy, within 70 miles. That's devastating to hear that. So I'm really excited about NABP working with us to help expand the regulations, to those states that are still kind of holdouts. And I think, 2001, I think it's kind of like AI right now. Everybody's talking about it. I think the boards are a little bit concerned, 2001, was it, is this going to be Skynet pharmacy everywhere? We just need to, help with facts in the data. And there's a lot of data. North Dakota, Idaho, a lot of these guys put out great data to show that's not the case. It hasn't, taken over. It's really been in communities that this is the only way that the community will still keep a pharmacy. I think another thing people don't understand is the U.S. postal system has closed a lot of regional mail facilities. So even when you are mailing to small communities, what used to take a day to be delivered via mail is now taking almost a week because they are mailing them back out to major cities and back in. So the access that they had to these prescriptions are not like it used to be. So we need to do what we can to keep the access to what maybe we know is the most trusted healthcare profession, but might honestly be the only healthcare profession in their community. So very excited about the help of NABP presidential project for this.
So do want to shout out to the listeners. If you are in a state that doesn't have a telepharmacy ability, authorization, or there's issues, reach out to the outcomes team, ask them what data that you can use to present to your legislators, to your state representatives, just to educate them. Because Mary Lou, I've gone to DC with pharmacists a bunch of times. I've gone to pharmacies where we've invited state representatives in, and every time they talk to a pharmacist about an issue, it's the clarification that all the lights go off, that they're like, that's what I needed to understand, because the PBM reform and telepharmacy and medication management, and it's like, unless you get in front of a representative, a state rep, and really talk to them and let them know how this is impacting their constituents, and it's preventing access to medication, it's hard for them to formulate. I mean, pharmacy it's not fast food. I mean, the commercial, out there that you're just like, oh, it's mail order and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, we're not flipping burgers. Like, this is people's lives, health. You need to slow down. We need to think a little bit more personalization, and telepharmacy can really fall in line with that.
Yeah. And I think back to your original post, we were talking about the beginning. I think pharmacy is really good at doing the work. We just have not been great storytellers in really emphasizing what is the impact of either doing or not doing something. And so we have to get involved. We have to push technology. We have to push, when there's asking for comments on something, when they're asking for feedback, because someone else will make those rules. So, just like we saw with the Utah AI application for refills, which has left the pharmacist completely out of it. I mean, it's cool that the refill is going to happen, but you kind of think, hey, if we had been involved, would that have come to us? So I think, to your point, you got to be listening and active in podcasts like these. When you see a post that someone's written that's got something that you're really passionate about, you should also be adding comments on there of what you've seen like that. Get involved with your state pharmacy association. And to your point, just make your voice heard, because someone else is going to make those comments for you. So.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, if you're listening and you kind of want to have a little bit more clarification, you want to connect with Luann, she's active on LinkedIn, reach out to her, put in Luann, 2 words, Luann, then Myers, VP of Enterprise for Outcomes. Luann, you have to promise that we're going to maybe bring pharmacy operators, someone from the client base, and really dig into some of these subjects. I love talking about it. This is my favorite subject, is anything and everything pharmacy, and really clarifying it and what's happening in this week in pharmacy.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, I certainly have some rural pharmacy folks who would love to talk to you, who are kind of fighting this fight right now. I've got somebody in Hawaii. If you wanted to a remote session, I know that would be a burden to us all to go to Hawaii to hear the story. But yeah, same thing. He's got a rural location in Hawaii. He's really struggling to get the board to get caught up that he's going to close his store. But I mean, we're hearing it every day. That, that's the sad truth, is we've got to help these folks. It's outside of the products that we're selling, but it's really talking about how do we keep the community open and accessible.
Exactly. All right. Well, we really appreciate you. Can't wait to see you at the next conference. We're headed to Assembia. We're headed to Idea Share, probably maybe Syncora, RBC. So definitely run into you out there and about for sure.
Yeah, I know for our the RX30 update for the automated data entry, they will be showing that at the Wholesaler Summer World Tour. So people will be able to see that in person.
That's awesome. All right. And if you're listening, hey, get a demo from this. Just go to outcomes.com, ask for a demo on it. The team will reach out to you and show you the new features and the RX30 advancement. That's the platform. I remember the first platform I ever learned about in the community space was RX30. So there's some legacy there.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for being on TWIRx.
All right. Thanks, Todd.
Hey, we'll be right back.
As frontline healthcare providers, pharmacists like you understand the importance of personalized care, especially in acute pain management. Ural Pharma is dedicated to providing high-quality, generic products tailored to meet your patient's needs. The company aims to serve a diverse range of patient populations, including athletes recovering from intense training, weekend warriors managing minor injuries, and those seeking a practical and mess-free option for acute pain management. Keep Ural in your toolbox of pain management options and join the ranks of pharmacists leading the way in personalized care. To learn more about Ural Pharma and its products, including full prescribing information, boxed warnings, and important safety information, visit uralpharma.com. That's YARAL pharma.com and connect with them on LinkedIn.
Welcome back to TWIRx. This has been an exciting episode so far, at least for me. I nerd out. So when we're talking about AI and Keith Kallmes has been on several times. I'm glad that you got to listen to what he was talking about in the access of data quicker, as well as the relevance and contextual and some of the new data that's coming out based on whatever you're studying. Check them out at Nested Knowledge. I think it's nested-knowledge.com. And once again, it's an entire AI system for physicians and pharmacists to quickly access certain information pieces that may be around something that you're studying. And it opens up almost every journal that's out there and published and referenceable. So, hey, not sure if you heard this week in pharmacy, there's big news in gene therapy. And this comes from Fierce Biotech, where Ultragenyx gene therapy hits co-primary endpoint in phase 3 rare disease study, teeing up potential win. And this is exciting. Think of this. This is a percentage of patients out there that cannot break down ammonia. And this medication is going to enter into a big opportunity for those people suffering with that. An 18% lower than placebo, a statistically significant result that met one of the trial's co-primary endpoints. Ultragenyx reported just this week, March 12th. Big news. Hey, this is a good time to bring in someone I'm really excited to get on TWIRx. I've been looking forward to this interview. Dr. Fran Gregory, welcome to TWIRx.
Thank you. Great to be here.
I'm not going to make you TWIRx, but
thank you again. Double thanks on
double thanks. On that. Hey, just for the audience to know, Dr. Gregory is Cardinal Health's Vice President of Emerging Therapies, Cell and Gene Biosimilars. Fran, if you were in pharmacy school, I don't want to say way back in the day, but I'll just say back in the day. And you heard that there was a pharmacist out there who became a vice president of one of the largest wholesalers in the world and now leading emerging therapies and cell and gene biosimilars. Like, your mind would have been like, but what does that even mean?
It truly would have been like, what does that even mean? Because none of this existed back when I was in pharmacy school. And I obviously don't want to age myself too terribly much, but these treatments are absolutely, life-changing for patients and for the healthcare economy. when we're talking about biosimilars. So, and innovative therapies, really both on the opposite side of the healthcare economy, one being extremely costly and one being cost savings. But when I was in pharmacy school, you could not have told me that my career would have taken this particular path. But I think one of the things that is cool about being a pharmacist and in healthcare in general, you have so many different roads that you can take in this profession, and just really thrilled that mine has led me here. And I definitely encourage pharmacy students, if you're in pharmacy school or thinking about it, to think, big picture. There are endless opportunities for you, and love that this profession has opened so many doors for so many people.
Absolutely. I just got back from the Pennsylvania Pharmacists Association's annual meeting. Several of the students blew me away with what they want to do, and to be able to even understand what's coming, what the expansion of the medical science liaison is going to do, research, the application of AI in disease state management. There's huge opportunities. Ultragenics coming out with that news just this week. The expansion of approved therapies, 183 approved therapies, and roughly 67 billion in sales by 2030. That's right around the corner. It's kind of scary. Cardinal Health's perspective, how significant is this moment for community oncology and specialty care providers?
Well, there was a lot in your question just now, but I want to start with the Ultragenics, the phase 3 positive readout on their data just recently this week. I think any good news in the world of cell and gene therapy and advanced therapy is extremely exciting. The condition that this particular treatment addresses is not something that everyone's heard of every day, which is the case in many of these treatments that my company focuses on and works with daily. So it's really critical that we continue to push the science forward to support these manufacturers, which is a lot of what I do in my role at Cardinal Health, is really supporting these manufacturers and bringing these products to market and increasing patient access to them when they're available. So we love seeing this good news. We hope that there's always success in cell and gene therapies and beyond, and that ultimately these get to physicians who can prescribe them for patients who need them. So what does it mean for community oncology providers? What does it mean for providers in general? I think that it means we all need to do our part to know and understand these treatments, to be able to identify patients early who are candidates for these treatments. And this becomes very close to home for patients who are suffering with rare diseases and other conditions that could be addressed by these complex therapies. So if you think about the pipeline and looking at all of the treatments available, you mentioned our analysis on the pipeline and hundreds of treatments potentially coming to market. Very high spend. You mentioned the spend of over $60 billion on just these new treatments. We really want to make sure that if, we're getting these treatments to market, and again, Cardinal Health supporting these manufacturers step by step, setting up the processes and the procedures and the logistics and the clinical and operational programs to help get them to market, that they do reach patients and they get to the outcomes that they need. We can't get that done in just academic medical centers that are located in large city hubs. We've got to get these treatments closer to the patients who need them. And we want to really work with those community physicians, community nurses, and pharmacists to help understand the products and be able to identify, again, those patients who are candidates for them so that we can really see that access improve and overall the outcomes of the patient populations improve alongside.
So, Fran, I'm going to go back to something that you just said. Want to dig into this a little bit more. The cost variable of what's happening in the pharmacy profession, the plate tectonics of what's happening in PBM reform is going to completely change how pharmacists are paid, what they're paid for. It's not going to be just about dispensing anymore. It's going to be about follow-up. It's going to be about telehealth. It's going to be about disease state management, reporting back to the EHR system, or a whole combination of that. So what role in biosimilars specifically in that jigsaw puzzle for lowering costs, what role can Cardinal play in helping providers to navigate those financial and reimbursement complexities?
So shifting over to biosimilars. So the previous question was definitely more along the lines of innovative therapies, just so we're grounding our audience. Now we're shifting to biosimilars a little bit. So biosimilars are kind of the opposite of that pendulum, where we have advanced therapies, cell therapies, gene therapies that are ranging anywhere from $500,000 to up to, over $4 million per treatment. On the other side of that, we have biosimilars. So biosimilars are kind of really what I see as the one significant opportunity to lower healthcare costs and contribute to the sustainability of the US healthcare ecosystem. So biosimilars are critical. I feel biosimilars are financially critical to enable kind of that financial space and that financial leverage that we need in the healthcare system to show the innovation and um, to push forward the innovation that we want to see on the cell and gene therapy and advanced therapy side. So what are we doing at Cardinal Health to ensure that biosimilars are taken up by payers, are utilized by prescribers, are accepted by patients? There are a million ways I could answer this question, because we're involved in so many different components and so many different stakeholders along the way with biosimilars specifically. But I think the key things that we really look at are working with our healthcare providers to make sure they understand the value and the benefit of biosimilars, to make sure that there are no clinical barriers to biosimilars. I think it's been proven with millions and millions of patient days treated with biosimilars that there are no additional adverse events or other concerns from an immunogenicity perspective with biosimilars or with switching. So we want to educate and make sure there are no barriers in place there for a physician to be able to prescribe a biosimilar to a patient. And then finally, I think really importantly is where pharmacists come in. A lot of times we're the ones administering or dispensing that treatment to the patient. We're kind of the end of the line. So it's really important that pharmacists are educated on biosimilars and understand what they are. What is the value? What is the patient value versus what is the bigger picture value to the entire US healthcare ecosystem? So I think there's a lot there again in your question. Great questions. They're very detailed and deep, but it's really our mission in life to make sure all of the providers who access their treatments through Cardinal Health, that they have access to a broad spectrum of biosimilars, and that what biosimilars they choose work for them financially and operationally and fit into their systems.
Yeah, the whole kickoff of this and the interest, which is why I cram in so much into my questions, because I don't get enough time with people like you that are leading these sectors of pharmacy. These questions are being pulled from the 2026 biosimilars report. I'm going to put a link so that people can go to that landing page and get access to that report. And kind of something that was also mentioned was the infrastructure needed that will be expanding alongside of all of the new therapies that are coming out, like cold storage and technology and distribution models. So that's all part of that ecosystem. So when I'm thinking of that, how is Cardinal investing in these capabilities to support community-based treatment settings?
So I'm going to shift back over to advanced therapies, cell therapies, gene therapies. These are the treatments that we're really looking at as kind of the future of where medicine is headed. So Cardinal Health has been invested in advanced therapies, cell and gene therapies from the very beginning. 2017 was the first cell therapy launch in the world, and Cardinal Health was right there with that launch plan, with that manufacturer launching cell and gene therapies alongside and providing resources and solutions along the way. So what we want to make sure we do within Cardinal Health is, we have the baseline services really off the shelf, ready to go for these manufacturers these days. We have cold chain logistics. We have an innovation center where we can store cold chain products down to negative 196 degrees Celsius. We have cryo storage. We have the availability of logistics and shipping resources that can literally get a product to a patient within a window of minutes versus hours. So really making sure the product gets to that patient, gets to that provider at the exact right time in the exact right hands, so that not a minute is wasted for these patients to get the treatments that they need. So we really have been, again, invested in this cell and gene therapy space from the beginning, and we continue to evolve. This is a very quickly evolving space, and obviously we want to be on the very forefront of what we offer as solutions to our manufacturers, our physicians, and our patients ultimately. So we've also a couple of years ago launched what we call Advanced Therapy Connect, which is critical when we start thinking about it's an ordering platform for providers to be able to go into one place and order any of the cell and gene therapy products that we provide within Cardinal Health, which is the majority of them. So this is really important, not only for those academic medical centers that are primarily ordering the majority of these products today, but if you think about those treatments making their way to a community provider site, somewhere in Alabama or Texas or California, those providers don't have the operational infrastructure. They might not have the financial and the clinical infrastructure set up to be able to kind of figure out how to get that product ordered for the patient. So we really wanted to make it incredibly easy for anyone to go in, any provider that is certified to do so, to go in and order a cell or gene therapy product for the patient. Of course, that requires infrastructure, the clinical, operational, and financial infrastructure. We also provide services around those three key areas for community providers as well, so that they can really be confident when they're administering their first cell therapy, their first gene therapy. And really, advanced therapies goes beyond that. We're working with providers on products like bispecifics. Some of the other innovation out there is inclusive of what we call individualized neoantigen therapies or INT therapies, tumor infiltrating lymphocyte treatments or TIL therapies, DNA, RNA therapies. There are all these really cool new novel therapies. And we really just want to embrace those, help the manufacturers, help the providers become educated, and make sure that the patients can access those medications closer to home.
So a piece of this, once again, going back to that analogy of a jigsaw puzzle, is the changing payment models, accessibility, bringing costs down. Innovative payment models were cited nearly 80% of industry respondents as a way to improve access and logistics. So when I think of that, like what kinds of payment or procurement models, what does that mean? What do you think is going to help to kind of reshape that access?
Yeah, I think it's really, really interesting. And when you think about, we are working towards getting these treatments closer to patients where they are, meaning we're trying to get them more into community settings. And when you think about getting, more community settings up and scaled to be able to administer these treatments, that equates to a higher volume. And higher volume equates to higher spend. And then payers start to think, this is kind of a lot, and how are we going to handle this financially? So some of the solutions that are active in the market right now, and we're working through our manufacturers and, tying in payers and really thinking about how we make this sustainable long term. And there are a few different payment models that have come up, which I'm sure you've heard of. And we call these innovative payment models or outcomes-based models. And they can be anywhere from, basic consignment purchasing, which is kind of the easier end of the spectrum, all the way through outcomes-based contracts where maybe a manufacturer is only paid for the treatment if the patient achieves a certain outcome or a certain clinical milestone. And in between there, we have payment models such as annuity payment plans or payment plans that are that can transfer from one payer to the next payer as that patient possibly leaves one health insurance system and moves into another one based on possibly their employer or other status. So there are a number of these that have kind of crept up, and I think it's very timely. These aren't new. We've seen these in the market probably 5-10 years ago, but it's really important for them to continue to evolve like we're evolving in other places in this industry, evolving so that we can kind of keep up with the science and technology as it emerges.
So once again, going back to this whole bigger industry and our profession and the profession within the profession, specialty pharmacy within pharmacy, it's its own little galaxy in the universe. And one of the most special times of the year is when we all get together at what I call the Super Bowl of specialty pharmacy, which is Access to Pharmacy 2026 Assembia. And I want to let the listeners know and have some questions for you, but you have a special presentation there. You're going to be doing a presentation on April 29th at 9 a.m. Local time, the evolution of advanced therapies, how specialty pharmacies and community providers are improving access to patient care.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this session, and we have a great panel. I've got Lee Denny from J&J and Dr. Philip Marjon from our own Navista C-Care organization. So we have a topic that I think is very timely. We're going to be talking about how community providers are really scaling up and stepping up to help, help, I think, in a way, enhance innovation opportunities for the academic medical centers by taking some of these treatments that they're pretty capable of administering, bispecifics, CAR Ts, some of the gene therapies, and really allowing those academic medical centers to then focus on the new innovative, the clinical trials, the things that are coming down the pipeline, and then kind of, gradually there's this pipeline of things coming through the academic medical center, moving into the satellite, and then moving into the community. So kind of that flow of complexity, which really benefits providers because they have new treatment options for patients, and they can keep those patients in their own provider, atmosphere. And then secondly, it's the best for patients to be able to do this. The patients need this care. They deserve the best treatment option that's available for them for their condition. And then finally, the manufacturers also benefit from this because they want to see their products be successful when they launch them to market. They're launching them so that patients can access them and patients can benefit them. So it's really a win-win-win across the board. But I think the real key part is, what other tools and resources do these providers need to be successful in the community? And that's where we're really seeing specialty pharmacy step into the picture, because specialty pharmacies can kind of manage some of those complexities, like the financial piece, some of the operational pieces around the prior authorizations, or some of the benefit investigation pieces. So specialty pharmacies are really stepping up and taking on a lot of the clinical and operational pieces that really enable those community providers to just take care of that patient and really worry about the clinical components and making sure that that patient's receiving the best treatment in the most safe environment. So really it is kind of this perfect, where the stars are aligning perfectly around the patient, and all of these different pieces are coming into play, and everyone truly is stepping up to do their part to help make this happen.
So with your presentation, excuse me, with your presentation, with you probably having 1,000 meetings, I always love, Assembia always teaches me something. And I come off of that gathering with knowledge, talking with Harry Travis, talking with people from Panther out of Pittsburgh. Or, by the way, let's stop for a second. Let's just clarify this. This is my argument. Harry agrees with me. Shout out to Harry Travis, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is the birth of the expansion and the invention of specialty pharmacy. Do you agree or disagree?
I tend to disagree, or I tend to agree with that comment. I've had a lot of discussions on this in my past as well. And I will say I learned specialty pharmacy, and I'm not going to say what year I learned specialty pharmacy, but early on in my career, I definitely learned specialty pharmacy from some of those pioneers coming out of Pittsburgh. So definitely would have to put my vote on Pittsburgh as well.
All right, back to Symbia. You're busy. You got a lot going on. We'd love to catch up with you. Hopefully, be able to come down to the press station and booth. However, what do you look forward to? What is it? What have you heard about percolating that's going to be shown or going to be talked about, or a session or something that you're like, damn, like I have to go to that one because that was an interest to you?
The best thing about Assembia is it's the gathering of the minds, right? You mentioned it's the Super Bowl, and I feel like it's, everyone that is in this industry that wants to be on top of things, that wants to know what's going on, that wants to make those connections and have those relationships with decision makers in this industry are there. And plus, it's a lot of fun, right? So people actually do have fun at this conference, which I love as well. What I am looking forward to, or what I think I can learn this year, I always do try to pick, a couple of things that I don't know anything about and try to attend those sessions. But I think one of the things that I saw on the agenda that I will try to attend, not because I don't know about it, but because it's changing so quickly are some of the government affairs, government relations focused discussions, because I always appreciate different people's opinions on those matters and what they kind of see coming in the future. Sometimes that differs from industry to industry or from, one type of company to another. So I really always look forward to, or this year I'll be looking forward to sitting in on some of the sessions and hearing what some different opinions might reflect.
All right. If you're listening and you want to connect with Dr. Fran Gregory, Fran is active on LinkedIn. Definitely go out there. I'm going to have a link in our show notes to your LinkedIn profile, Fran, so people can follow up with you. Excited to potentially see you. I'll talk with your handlers there, because you have people that probably help with your
My
schedule.
people will talk to your people. Is that what you're saying?
Your people talk to my people. But yeah, I'd love to get you on the show and dig
That'd
back
be great.
into and they're me making the mistake, the non-pharmacist mistake between the difference between the biosimilar and cell and gene therapy and how the universe is. But then again, there's like some overlap of information. So I definitely want to learn more. I'm sure our listeners would very much like to reach out and learn more as well. But I really appreciate you being on TWIRx today.
I appreciate it. This was always fun. I really appreciate talking to you again.
Hey, that's it for TWIRx. Have a great weekend.